What's up, guys, and welcome to today's Saturday morning episode of Cognition Ignition with C-Class. I like Saturday mornings as an INTP because it gives me a lot of time to get things done. I wake up early, which was something that was instilled on me from my isfj dad. At a young age, he kind of made me get up early, and it's just something that I've been keeping up. I did fall off for a little while, but I do see the benefits in it. And then Saturday mornings are great because nothing opens as early as it does during the week, so there's a lot of time between when I wake up and when I can start getting things done that I would normally do. So this morning I just did some brainstorming. A lot of times I do this with my ISFJ dad. We'll go through and talk about some of the concepts I'm learning about or reading about and how he sees them play out. He's a business owner as well. He raised me working in his business, which is why as an INTP I think I spend a lot of time understanding the systems of business. There was a lot of butting heads when I was a kid, to be honest. So now that we both have matured, I think it's really good. I think the MBTI kind of helps us both understand each other a lot better. He's even said it himself that he understands where I come from more now a lot of the time. I think because of him, he's kind of why I come off kind of as an ISTP sometimes, because I did really learn a lot from him. He really set me up to learn consistently. Through in his business, we would hire contractors, and he would have me work with them to learn a lot of things, and I got to experience the world a lot. A lot of it was against my will, but I'm not upset about it now. I realized like the benefits of it, especially when I see other people struggling who are a similar type to me. And I realized that most of the reason that they struggle is because they just don't have experience. They just haven't had the opportunity for experience, or somebody to push them into experience. So that's why I kind of do these, is I kind of like to help people. On top of that, running my own business is my wife running her business now. I like to really understand the people I'm working with, the people I'm doing projects for, and things like that. So I really did take some time just to really come learn about the MBTI for the past few years. I do this with a lot of things. It's like I'll go to school for periods of time to learn about whatever is interesting to me at the time. And eventually, whatever my next venture is, I plan to really incorporate the MBTI into it. It's going to be a business venture. I think I'm going to really be working on incorporating a lot of the things that I'm doing into my own life, just so I can really enjoy a lot of everything that I'm doing, and it's going to be in a business aspect. And when I hire people or work with people, I really want to use the MBTI as a coaching kind of thing. And what this video today really was just 10 thoughts that I just kind of brainstorm. And I'm just going to go through them. It's for INTPs. Other types can use it because it's not all INTP information. And I just wanted to run through it. If you are using the MBTI, this is going to help you understand some of the more nuanced things of it, or some of the things they don't talk about when you look at how the system is used for development right now. And one other thing is, if you are an INTP, I think a lot of INTPs have done the TINE development, and you're just wondering how to get to the next part. I've put out videos on how to get to NI, but what I really want to do is just construct like a framework for you guys of like things that you can just think of. This is just random generated thoughts that I had this morning. And the first one would be like INTPs just generally will always have more of a capacity to change the way they perceive things than they will the way they make decisions. It's because our preference is to perceive. Introverted thinking is easily accessible for us, and what we have to work on is developing an extroverted perceiving function. And when you start doing that, other perceiving functions are generally going to be easier to develop and be more helpful. TI is your hero. It's going to do what you need it to do in a heroic way or a very efficient way. The way you perceive things is going to be what allows you to grow. Number two would be that different types would benefit from different systems of development and psychological concepts. And I got this because I was listening to Dr. Scott Barry Kaufman's podcast this morning about fad psychology. And obviously some people think MBTI is like a fad psychology, but it's been around longer than a lot of other psychological concepts. It's discredited, and I think it's because it's so accurate, and it may cause some stereotypes and things like that. So a lot of people don't want to use that. I really like Dr. Scott Barry Kaufman's work on like transcendence and all that, but at the same time, I don't like how he discredits the MBTI. He's a professional psychologist, and he kind of, I think he kind of realizes that when you talk about psychology, it's specific to a person, and yeah, you can group people together, but it's specific to how that person's functioning and what information are they going to take in. So when you get into like self-help and things like that, if you're an INTP, you're definitely going to develop different than say an ESTJ. For me, as an INTP, like when I hear self-help telling people to meditate, it just doesn't work for me. I said that in a previous video. It does not work for me. It actually really causes me a lot of stress if I turn my thinking off. There's other ways of meditation too, but it's more of a collaborative meditation than just shutting my thinking off. And I'm sure for other types, there's going to be other things that aren't going to benefit them. So when you hear things like grit and I don't know. Or transcendence or how or really I'm talking more about like the systems of how to do it. When you hear Tony Robbins speak, I like him, and I think for some people he's great, and I think for certain types of people he's great. For certain types of people, what he preaches isn't going to affect other people. So when you start looking at typology systems and work on your development, and you're working on self-help, self-esteem, and all that, figure out what works best for type. Maybe I'll do a video on that soon. Number three would be that there's so much more function development after your auxiliary, and I just don't know. I think that's what holds people up in the bringing the MBTI together with other psychological concepts is that people don't realize like it's not just these two functions. There's so much more to it, and those other concepts can be put into them. Pretty much what I was just getting at. Number four is that positive thinking doesn't really work. No matter what, you can't just be positive and assume everything's going to work out well. I think it's great to be positive. I think keeping a positive mindset is important. I think as an INTP, what I think about myself has a big effect on what I'm doing in the world. I'm sure other INTPs realize that, you're what you think about yourself, not so much what you feel about yourself. That's why like sometimes we can do things even if we don't genuinely feel like doing them or that we should do them, but we see the logical thoughts of why we should be the person to do them or why, it's all about internally. What do we feel we're capable of, and where do we think we're going to benefit the most? So don't just positively think. Create positive action that will allow you to think positively. It's really you can't just work on self-esteem, and that's one of these concepts of fad psychology is that you can't just work on self-esteem. You have to do the things that allow you to have self-esteem, feel confident that you can do things. Number five is that I really think functions cycle on different types of scales. Like you can look at them as a 24-hour scale. You look at them as a monthly scale, yearly, and then like those 7-year growth patterns. I would say like pretty much every 7 years I can see a cycle of how I'm choosing to change in my life. And I think if you really internalize and do a lot of childhood excavation and things like that, then yeah, you can find that not everybody needs to do that. I think childhood excavation is probably good. I don't know. I haven't decided if it's good for an SI user or an SE user. The reason being that I think SI users have a better way of accessing their childhood, but I think because SE users are less likely to do it, maybe they have a better time actually if they do take the time to do it. they're going to benefit from it. And I just know like even ENTJs, like they don't like to even like internalize too much. I've talked to them. They don't like to think about what have they done in the past that was like bad. They want to move forward to the next thing. It's interesting because I do think that the SESI probably plays a role in that. Then number 6, and people are going to hate me for this, but you can be an ambivert in the MBTI if you are more mature, if your functions are more mature and more developed. Actually, the whole point of the MBTI is to bring your introverted and extroverted worlds together to create alchemy in your mind. And I really think people who say, oh, you can't be an ambivert, it's because they're just not developed and they are so one-sided to introverted or extroverted that they're not considering the possibility that, yeah, I can introvert when I have to and extrovert when I have to, and I'm going to do it in the way that is the best way for me to do it. So yeah, and when you get into Maslow's hierarchy, that's what that was all about, and now you have psychologists working on that again, and it makes sense. What the things you internalize, can you put them out to the world? The things that you can put out to the world, can you make better through internalizing them? And that's when you become more ambivert. And and people explain it. Sometimes when I need to do this, I can introvert, or I'm more introvert. And when I need to do this, I can extrovert that. And that's part of creating alchemy. It becomes more natural the more you do it too, where you really do feel more ambiverted. So go ahead, argue that, but you're wrong. Number 7 would be all extroverted functions require interaction. And number 8 goes right along with that. All introverted functions require introspection. And if it's introverted, it's more, it's usually going to be a lot more subjective. If it's extroverted, it's going to be more objective. It's going to be the things that are actually happening externally. If it's introverted, it's going to be the things that you recognize, the specific things that you recognize or that you hold on to as true for you. Number 9 would be if you're going to use like your type to like explain yourself or to justify the reasons for what you do, it's just one-sidedness. It's better to use your type to understand how you interact with people and make it better. Understand what you can do to interact better with other types. That's one big thing to do. For me, I work with a lot of ISTJs, and I would say at one point I could see where like I would get pissed at ISTJs, and a lot of things is like as an NE user, when I do use my, and because I have to actually try to use my NE, when you actually shut it down, it can really piss me off. If you shut down my exploration, it could almost ruin friendships because I'm excitedly brainstorming and people kind of like shut that out. I've learned how to really communicate with ISTJs, and really when they know where you're coming from, and they'll use the typology system too, but when they know where you're coming from, they can open up to those NE, knowing that you don't really hold much value to it. Like I'm just exploring the option. I don't hold so much value to it. If I held value to it, you would know. But I don't. Usually, I'm exploring options when I'm talking to people, and I just see that like it's the best thing to learn how to interact with certain types rather than sit there and say, "Oh, I'm never going to interact with that type." So yeah, don't be one-sided. And number 10 was just me because, I was listening to that podcast and it really pisses me off that people don't realize like, yeah, there's a type thing and certain types are never going to use that for development. Certain types are never going to use that for development. I just think psychology in general, they want to put out those podcasts about these fad psychological topics. But MBTI isn't a fad, type isn't a fad. It's been around probably longer than most other ones. And without accepting it, you're never going to come to these clear-cut realizations about who is grit going to benefit, who is self-esteem going to benefit, who is getting organized going to benefit, who is letting go of their thoughts going to benefit. There's certain types of people, and I just I really like the type system, but and I really like psychology, and I just don't like when it's like that. So what I'm really doing is I'm really coming up with my own system in a way. That's what this whole thing is. And then when I move on to my next venture, MBTI typing and personality typing and growth for my employees will happen through these systems. It's not going to be just, hey, develop your auxiliary function, because, once you do that, what else is next? We'll find out. And I'll catch you on the next episode of Cognition Ignition with C-Class. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks for watching.